Welcome to Stroke Warrior Radio, where recovery finds its voice and hope is built through real conversations, practical knowledge, and the stories of people who prove that recovery doesn't end when rehabilitation does. Today, we're going to challenge some of the biggest myths surrounding stroke and brain injury recovery. You may have been told that recovery eventually stops. You may have heard the words, as good as it's going to get, or perhaps you've discovered what so many of us have, that we simply didn't know what we didn't know. But what if there's more to the story? What if recovery isn't getting back to who you were, but discovering who you can become? That's exactly where today's conversation begins with my very special guest. We've been trying to do this for quite a while. This
Oh
is,
yeah.
tell me if I'm pronouncing this right. Your name is Phat Cho?
Yeah, fat cow.
Oh, Fat Cow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That must have been tough growing up, huh?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I went by Phil for the longest time because I was the only one in my family born in the Philippines. So they called me Phil.
Oh, wow. That's kind
Yeah.
of unique. I love it. Well, I will get into what your advocacies are a little bit when we finish this up, but
All
I've
right.
been impressed by your recovery. So let's go back to the
Thanks.
day everything changed. What happened? Walk us through that day.
Okay, really, that day was just like any other day. I think there were a lot of things going on in my life at that time. I think everybody has a bunch of things to get busy, but I was healthy. I didn't have any pre-existing conditions or anything. But what had happened was, it's kind of an ironic, or it's kind of a weird story, but I was stretching after a workout and then I felt something in my neck burst.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then I thought it was really odd and I started losing feeling on one side. So I sat down and I gave it about like 5, 10 minutes and I started feeling better. And yeah, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it at that time because there was so much going on. And so I just got in the car and I drove back home and kind of went
Gosh,
about my day. But I started getting that feeling back on my left side because it was my left side and I kind of went about the day. I was told recently by one of my coworkers is I had some like sounds or something on my affected side, and I didn't know it was a stroke, but it kind of healed itself. And so what I didn't realize now looking back, there was a slow bleed happening. It was healing, but there was like a slow bleed happening. So that's why I kind of felt back to normal, but then the stroke was building up.
wow.
And
How long after that first TIA did you get have the stroke?
so it took about a week.
Okay.
That first incident happened on a Sunday, and then on Friday is when I started feeling the stroke symptoms, which was for me, I was throwing up. I had eye issues and also balance problems. Those were my main things. And
Hey,
then, yeah,
go ahead.
it's about a week.
I'm You're one of I interview a lot of people. You're one of the youngest I've interviewed. So how young were you when you had to?
I was 36 at that time,
Wow.
which was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm 42.
What do you remember most clearly about what happened after you went to the hospital? What happened during that week? Um, and I guess part of that question is, what don't you remember?
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to remember a lot. Some things, especially like once I got to the hospital, there were things that were a blur, but I remember sections. But you know what? When I went to the hospital, when I was having the stroke, I didn't realize I was having a stroke until they said that. But it just felt like I was sleeping, and then I woke up all of a sudden, and I didn't really know what was going on. I just knew something had happened. And as far as what I remembered, things were kind of a blur, but I remember sections of it. What happened in there when I was in the hospital, I had complications which required them to do a second surgery on me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that you had a part of your cerebellum removed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was complications and my brain started swelling and they decided to remove part of my cerebellum in my brain so that way it would allow some room for the bleeding or the brain to swell. Because
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar, but once the brain swells, you can go pretty much completely dead. And so they had
Yeah.
to cut off part of my cerebellum so that way, it can allow room for it to breathe.
Did they have one of those? Did they remove a skull piece and all that too?
No, they didn't. I know
Oh, good.
that I've seen people where they remove a part and then they implant it like elsewhere, but they didn't do that with me. I'm not sure exactly. I just know they just cut it out and they stitched it together.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a risk that it would swell up, but I don't know. That's the route they decided to take.
I'm always, my stroke, I didn't know I was having a stroke. I took ibuprofen and went to bed. I didn't call the ambulance till the next day. Um, what would you tell listeners from that early experience? What would you tell our listeners about recognizing stroke sooner?
I do think that we should be aware of the symptoms and the signs. Maybe be aware of what things you can take care of your body to prevent strokes. And
Okay.
also, if you're having a stroke, to be aware of the signs. Because whether it's you or even your loved ones, I think it's important to know that and be aware. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was in denial. I wasn't familiar with the symptoms. I actually wouldn't have gone if my girlfriend didn't call at that time. I was thinking I could sleep and be better and I took Tylenol. Yeah. So in a way we relate on that.
yeah, yeah. I always say in our circles up here, we always talk about we didn't know what we didn't know. What surprised you most about your stroke?
What surprised me the most is the recovery, how long it takes. The stroke, I feel like that was the easier part. It felt like I was sleeping and things were happening. I think when you're awake, you start recovering, doing rehab, and then you go home. I think just the length of how long it takes to recover. I thought I would be recovered in, like in 6 months.
Yeah,
So that'd be all right, right?
I'm going back to work next month. No,
Yeah,
you're not.
yeah, yeah. You're not. This is a lot more than that. Yeah.
How long were you in did you go to ICU first?
Yeah, I think I was in ICU for about a month.
Wow.
Or I don't know all the details, like what you call it, but maybe ICU was like a couple weeks, and then inpatient for about a month.
Okay.
I think that was it.
Inpatient rehab.
Yeah.
What did, I know this is kind of weird phrasing, but what did nobody prepare you for?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
when we're in the hospital, we're told this stuff, that all kinds of stuff. We have cognitive issues. We have, we have 10 different doctors telling us 10 different things. What do you think that you should have been prepared better for?
Yeah, that's a good question. And in a way, I don't know if anybody could really be prepared. They told me some things. I don't think I was at that right mind or to understand fully what they were telling me. It required my loved ones, that were around to actually like kind of translate. They gave me a packet of information and it was just too much for me at that time. Yeah, I think maybe the identity shift, going back home, realizing that, hey, this is your new reality. It's
Yeah.
completely different. Yeah, because now is different from, of course, when I got out of the hospital. Yeah.
Uh, are you still in physical therapy, or how long did you go through therapies?
Yeah, I was going for a year at an actual location, but due to finances and stuff, and plus in my past, I did do a lot of things with physical, like workouts and stuff. So then I kind of took what I learned from my own and also in therapy, and I did it my own. I did it.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. So did you go through what a lot of us do with the therapist telling you this is as good as it's going to get? You're not going to do any better walking. You're not going to do any better, you know, with this, that, or the other thing. Did you have to go through that at all?
Yeah, I did. I remember hearing that specifically from my neurologist. It was like, okay, after a year, you're done. And
Mm.
at that time, I guess I was doing a lot of therapies and I still felt progress. And in a way, I didn't believe it because I was seeing progress and I just understand that the body it takes time for it to heal, especially something like a stroke. It's not like it just stops. And now there's a lot of research out there, and I believe as long as you keep on challenging, your body, yourself in different ways, it will continue.
Consistency and repetitiveness, right?
Yeah, yeah. Especially in the beginning, even the smallest things,
Yeah.
it makes a
What
difference.
have, what have you learned? So the way I'm reading it, and tell me if I'm wrong, the first year was really hard. You were recovering, but not as quickly as you would have liked. Um, what do you think would have changed what have you learned that would have changed your recovery back then?
I think the consistency is a big part of it, and also understanding that, there's things that are going to be in your control and then also things that are out of your control. So I was kind of in my way a lot. I think
Okay.
uh, the deadline, for example, just understanding that, you just keep on putting in the work, being consistent, and you kind of have to let some things happen. I think is what I would say.
I'm impressed with your advocacies, and what I call it is becoming captain of your own team. When did you realize that you needed to advocate for yourself?
Yeah,
What was that aha moment that said, this is up to
that's
me, not them?
that's a good question. I think it really did start right in the beginning. I remember after I woke up from that second surgery, they forgot actually to install I forgot what it's called, but it's supposed to drain the hydrocephalus.
Oh, a shunt.
A
Yeah.
shunt. There we go. Yeah, they forgot to put that in my brain. And so they wanted to do another surgery. And at that time, we had to, we all kind of got together and I kind of felt based off my gut, I was like, okay, you know what? I don't want to do another one. But it was a risk that we had to take, and it ended up working out. But they wanted to do a second surgery to put in a shunt. And I had to decline, but we were doing our own research. But yeah, definitely, I think just starting off like that throughout that time, there's just little things we had to look into. I think, looking up recovery, like activities and stuff, I think that helped me. And also, it was just a process going back to work. I think just learning about disability, also how different ways we're protected in case something happens, and just like learning about disability and what I could do.
Were you able to get into support groups early on, or did that take a little while before you were in support groups or the like?
You know, with there's different support groups out there. I think the traditional ones, I didn't do those.
Okay.
But I did look at like some stuff on like Facebook and stuff. I never did that. But I do believe in support groups. I do have a good support group, I think, just around me, like family and also friend relationships that I've developed, just a handful of people. And coincidentally, I do have two close friends that are stroke survivors that,
No.
Yeah, I didn't really know about their stroke until I had a stroke. Then we started talking more about it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
How
that,
convenient. It
yeah,
makes a difference.
it
It
really
makes a
does. I
difference,
think
doesn't it? Talking to another stroke survivor.
yeah, I really think everybody should do it, and that's why I'm passionate, about like things like what you do, and just hearing stories, also like building, hope for stroke survivors. I think that's why I'm so passionate about it because I believe it helps. Seeing it, hearing it, talking about
Yeah.
it. And
You, I'm curious. You mentioned before about finances. You couldn't go to therapies anymore. What
yeah,
advice, what advice would you give survivors learning to navigate the healthcare system?
yeah, I think there's a lot of issues in the medical system. But I also think don't underestimate what you can do if you're disciplined and just consistent. Even simple things, depending on where you're at. In the beginning, I remember just being on the walker and I was just walking laps around the house. Walking is huge.
Yeah.
If you can walk, or if you're, let's say, in a wheelchair and just doing things around the house, sit to stands or, those type of things do make a difference if you're consistent with it and you schedule it and just keep up with it. And that's a lot more powerful than you think.
Yeah. We can be our best therapist, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. I mean, there's benefits to having therapists, depending on, what financial situation you're in, but not all of us can take advantage of that.
Then you become your own advocate and your own therapist. I love it. That changed my whole recovery. I I I always like asking, and this may be a little personal, but how has this experience changed you? What have you learned about yourself?
Yeah. No, that's okay. I really think that maybe I compared to before, I realized that we are a lot more powerful than we realize it. But until we test ourselves, and at first I didn't think I would be able to get to this point, even when doctors, people around me did not expect me to be where I'm at. But I do think we are a lot stronger than we realize, you know.
How has your definition of success changed?
Yeah, my definition. Oh, that's a really good one. I think I used to look at success more like titles and financial success, but I do believe there's a lot more to success. I think being a good person, your character, those type of things can never be taken from you. And, I think it's easy to get down on yourself because of the physical things, but there's a lot more than that. Think success is just about a lot of character and yeah, it's not all physical.
Do you think your outlook on life has changed because of the stroke?
Yeah, definitely it has changed. A lot of a lot of it is the same, but it has changed and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that should be the case. We should constantly change,
Yeah.
improve.
Who have you become?
Yeah, I definitely figured myself out more and as far as what I want to do, how I want to impact and yeah, just who I am. I think we all are different, unique. So just to be more like myself and not try to just fit a mold.
I
I'm
like
still
that.
learning.
Not fitting a mold. I love that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, aren't we all? I mean,
Yeah,
it's nobody prepared us for the fact that it's a lifelong recovery. It's not a year, it's not 2 years, it's not five. It's lifelong.
that's really,
You said something about your girlfriend before and your family. How important have caregivers been in your recovery?
yeah, I definitely think it's been crucial. And sometimes I might not even realize it. But just having whether you have a girlfriend, a big family. I think even friends, those type of things. There's a lot of things even online. I've seen that there's a lot of good support groups out there, and it has been crucial. I think having someone there has helped me a lot.
Let's get into your advocacy a little bit, um, and your community, I guess. How has your purpose changed?
Mm, yeah,
I mean, and part of it is, I think, especially from what I've read about you, your advocacy has become part of your life. Explain that.
yeah. I do think that when you go through, well, for me, when I went through all this, it just lights me up to want to share that with other people that, when you don't believe in recovery, that it is possible. I want to show people that it is possible. You might not believe it right away, but I think that's why it has changed me to be so passionate about it because it is interesting because even though I'm tired, when it comes to stroke and, sharing recovery tips or anything, I'm like, well, I'm awake again, so it's really like, I'm sure like you relate in that way too. You've been doing, you said over 1,000 episodes. Like
Yeah.
most people would be so tired to continue, but you've reached that point. It's like all the time you spent to overcome to get to where you're at. I think it just really has changed me to want to share that with other people. And in a
Yeah,
way,
I think,
it
go
has
ahead.
helped me too. Yeah, it has helped me recover as well. A lot of the time that, we spend on these things, it takes work and you start learning from it too. And it helps, it's therapeutic in a way too.
Yeah, I mean, those thousand voices that I've talked to, they've helped my recovery. I mean, I've learned a lot from other people. Um, I hope they've learned some from us too, but it's the
Yeah.
whole journey doesn't, I didn't have a wife or anything at the time. I've been alone for my recovery. So I didn't have a care partner, luxury, if you will. Um, but I found a community, and you started a community. Um, how's that influenced your recovery or others?
I think being active, doing different things, it has helped me in ways to like schedule. There's a lot of things having this platform. What I do, I schedule things. I don't want to miss a day. So it helps me with my own just the details so that way I can become disciplined and kind of learn to recover again and learn how to do these simple things that before we took for granted. And, it does help me to create a schedule and just a lot of, I don't know what you call them, but like the small little things, the details that I can work on.
Yeah, I, I guess one of the things that I look at in all my interviews and my own recovery is what advice do you or would you give someone who feels alone in that recovery?
Yeah, I do realize that we think of the external, like whether there's people around us or getting the support or, different things, but really it does come down to us and we all have the strength. I think I was before thinking about people around me, but it was still up to me to put in the work and do the things. So it's not as important what's around you as, what you,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's at some point in time there's a awareness that we discover. I say my recovery's become remarkable and it's the most rewarding thing in my life. That was one of those moments where you say, aha, this is where it's going to.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who feels alone?
I would say, yeah, definitely you're not alone. It's easy to stay in that bubble, but I do think like following pages like, your page, just different. We do have different tools. Yeah, there's good and bad about the internet, but at the same time, we can leverage it and take advantage of what's out there.
Yeah, you have to be discerning. I mean, you have to have a good discernment gene in you to look and see which one's bad and which one's not. I mean,
Yeah, there you
and
go.
which one's real.
Yeah,
That's
which
the
one?
other thing.
Oh, uh,
Uh, let's talk about some practical takeaways that you've learned. What should the listeners, whether they're 6 months or 10 years post-stroke, what should the listener do tomorrow?
ooh, they should. I think resilience, I think just continue to, yeah, try and focus on, the things that you can control and accomplish. Because some things, yeah, the strokes are so complicated. Everyone's is different, but you do have to focus on your situation and how, what progress you're making.
What resources were the most helpful to you?
I think, yeah, well, as far as resources, I was following a lot of therapists, different ones. I can't really say just like one person,
Right.
but yeah, I was following a lot of therapists, different people that share activities and different, exercises online.
How's your recovery these days?
Yeah, I think I go through, yeah, I go through stages and, I've been kind of like some things you can go hardcore on it, but there's so many things going on. I think it's been kind of hard to balance it. And, like I've kind of put my foot off the pedal a little bit as far as like the exercises, the therapies, which I'm trying to work on it again because it is impacting my health. Yeah.
I'm curious, um, your hat says mindset, and I'm assuming that's because it's so important in your recovery. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it is. I actually, I wasn't sure if I was going to wear a hat today, but I just threw it on. But yeah, definitely, I do believe in mindset. I think a lot of survivors have mentioned it too, is just the mental side of stroke recovery. It does affect a lot of people, and I think your mindset is a big one that I've focused on during this time frame, which I believe, and I believe all survivors should, and it does. I think your mind influences everything. That's why.
Very cool. I call this the warrior round.
All
Finish the
right.
sentence. Finish the sentence. Recovery has taught me.
To be compassionate for others. We all
Wow,
got we all got problems. Yeah.
I like that. Hope means
If there's a chance
the one thing I wish every new survivor knew is
that they're a lot stronger than they think.
very good. What do you know today that you wish someone had told you during your first month or two after stroke?
It's gonna be a hell of a ride.
That's good. I like that. Anything else you mentioned mental health. Did you go through those stages as well, and what'd you do for it?
Yeah, for me, the biggest one is meditation.
Oh,
I think that is something that I'm really passionate about. And especially for survivors, it's very beneficial. But just start small, consistency, it goes a long way. Yeah.
wonderful. Tell us about your Hope for Stroke Survivors on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. What is that?
Yeah, Hope for Stroke Survivors. I started it for myself because I didn't want to see all the things that were going on. And I remember just wanting to kind of focus in on recovery and recovery stories. I love that. Survivor comeback stories. And so I started doing that and just saving them for myself and then making it public eventually. And people started gravitating towards it. So now I want it to be like a platform for all survivors, whether you're a survivor, even therapists, the community, so that we all come together and support one another. And it has expanded it started off on Instagram and now it's grown to YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. And I want it to be for all survivors.
How do people find it?
Yeah, if you just search Hope for number four stroke survivors, you can find it on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
Cool,
Uh,
cool. Anything you want to add? Anything else you want to add for today's talk?
no, it's nice to finally chat with you, Ralph. I've heard your name
Yeah, you
over
too.
and over again. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had. It actually went by pretty fast.
Yeah, it did. But we fulfilled our time slot, so we've done a good job.
All
Um,
right.
Thank you, Fat. I really appreciate it. To our
Oh,
listeners, one of the
my
things you've learned more than 1,000 conversations here on Stroke Warrior Radio is that recovery is rarely a straight line. Every survivor's journey is different. Um, and I guess one of the things you've shared is recovery isn't about returning to who you are. It's about discovering who you can become. And I thank you for that. And that's what I got out of it.
Yeah,
Listeners, so wherever you are in your journey, whether you're a survivor, caregiver, family member, or healthcare professional, keep learning, keep asking questions, keep building your team, and never stop believing that growth is still possible, even years after. If today's conversation encouraged you, I have a challenge for you. Share this episode from our YouTube channel at strokewarriorradio.com or with two people this week, one survivor and one healthcare professional. Remind us again about finding out about yours. It's Hope for Stroke Survivors,
oh,
right?
sorry.
That's
Yeah,
all right.
Hope for stroke survivors. Yeah.
Okay. No website, no yet.
No website yet.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Now that you
Pat,
asked,
thank
it'll
you.
be on the list. Yeah.
I really appreciate it. To our listeners and watchers, viewers, your story matters. Your recovery is worth fighting for, and you are never alone on this path. Catch the wave. That's warriors achieving victories every day. Have a great day, man.
All right. See you guys. See you, Ralph.